Welcome in, English 4 peeps. I just want to start off this little video saying I hope you're all doing well and that you're healthy and you're safe. I know we are in some pretty crazy times right now, something that we will all remember for years to come. But I also think that this is a chance for us to do some things a little bit differently. And obviously, we're trying some distance learning out. And so this is going to be our first video of probably many, and we will likely have some Zoom conferences together as well. But I wanted to make this video to kick us off with what you can expect for English 4 for the rest of the trimester and our distance learning program. So I know you guys are all familiar with this screen, and thank you to one of our students in class that I'm borrowing his screen to kind of show what it would look like on your side. I'm in the timeline, and down here in the bottom of this timeline we have our senior humanities for trimester 3, and the timeline here shows that we're going to be doing the Alchemist, and that's what we started before we got shut down. And so hopefully you guys brought home those books with you, and if you didn't and you would like a copy of a book, please let me know and I will make sure that I can get that out to you. If you don't want a book, I have a couple of different options for you as well to read the book. So I'm going to talk about that in just a sec. And then we only have just the one power focus area to go along with this book for this trimester. So I'm just going to jump in to show you what we got. And you're going to see some checkpoints here. We've got 7 checkpoints, and then we've got 4 final products in the project overview. The essential question that we're going to be targeting with this book is, what is your personal legend, and what hats or roles do you play in your life, and how does that, how do those change as you get older? And then what does it mean to lead a good life? And then how do we find meaning in that life? Some of you might be thinking, what's going on with this whole situation that we're in, and what a perfect opportunity for us to explore some of these themes. Down here in the bottom, you're going to see that in terms of the cognitive skills that we're going to be focusing on, we're going to be focusing on theme, point of view, development of a story, making connections and inferences, and constructing an evidence-based explanation. And at the very end, the epic finale, you're going to write a narrative that is kind of follows the same format of the book. And it's called In Pursuit of Your Own Personal Legend. Talk about that in just a sec. Down here in the bottom, I've got some resources for you that are that might be essential. The first 2, these are free PDF versions of the book if you don't have your actual book copy with you. The first one up here on the top is just a downloadable version, a PDF version. And so when you open it and you look at it, it looks like you're just looking through, basically like some papers or like a large essay or whatever. So it doesn't feel like a book per se, but it is like a very, what you call like a low fidelity version of the book. And then the next link down here, this is a really cool website that when you go to it, and I'm just going to go ahead and show it to you. I'm just going to open this up in a new tab. What's really neat about this version is that when you click on the right hand side, it looks and feels like a book as you start to read it. So it's a pretty cool way of reading the book if you don't have the actual book version of it. And down here, I've got some other things for you as well. I thought it was really important to, this is not required, but this is kind of a neat thing. You might remember from Mr. Bertrand's class or another English class that you've had, The Hero's Journey. This book very much follows kind of that format of the hero's journey. So this is just kind of a neat piece to like review before the book. So a lot of these things you'll see as they come along in the story. And then if you are someone that would rather listen to the book versus read it, I've got 2 different audio versions up here for you. I recommend perhaps doing the YouTube version. It is a little bit more stable than the other, and works a little bit easier. Okay, so let's go to our checkpoints and how I've broken this down. You'll notice here that I really haven't given you like page numbers to read from one section, or from one day to the next, or 1 week to the next. Instead, what I've done is I've broken it down into the way the book is broken down. There is an introduction, which is the first thing that you'll need to do, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. And then there's a prologue, which is pretty short. And then the book is divided up into basically 3 parts. There's part 1, and then part 2, and then an epilogue. So I'm going to decline you, Mr. Kraft. So I've set this up so that way when you do these checkpoints and you do the final products, they're divided up into those sections, okay? Some of these will require that you finish the entire part 1 to do the checkpoint, and others may not. So in this case, for part 1, for this dialectical journal, when you click on this, what you're going to see is, I'm going to open this up. What you're going to see is I actually give you, go back, sorry. Down here on the bottom, it says part 1 excerpt for The Alchemist, okay? So to complete this dialectical journal, you'll need to click and open this excerpt, okay? So you're only going to do this dialectical journal for the excerpt that I've given you. So you're not going to do a dialectical journal for the whole part 1. You're only going to do it with what I've given you there, okay? So that is also the case with part 2 and the dialectical journal, okay? So those 2 pieces are tied to the resource there. In prologue, you're gonna also, there's some resources here that I'd like you to look at as well. The prologue follows a Greek myth of Narcissus, and so there's some background information for you there. Of course, you know how to do these pieces. When you click on the link on the checkpoint, it'll bring you to a Google Doc, and I've set this up so you're just going to basically answer and put in responses directly into the Google Doc that I've set up for you. So, obviously, for instance, the very top one, the above painting, is by Caravaggio. In the space below, write down your thoughts or ideas and emotions about that. So you'll just click right into there and you'll type in your response. Please don't forget to request feedback at the very top after you've done that, so I know you've submitted it. Down here, I'm just going to skip over all the checkpoints here. I think you know like what you got to do there. And then in the final products, those are also set up in the same way. There's a part 1, there's a part 2, and then there's actually a part 1 and 2 final product. And then at the very end, there's an epic finale. So you can, after you finish reading part 1, you can do part 1 of the final product there. The final product for part 1 is analyzing theme and the central idea of the story. Part 2 is development and constructing an evidence-based explanation. So this is more textual analysis. And then part 1 and 2, the understanding omens piece, you're going to look at what omens are, and that's a big part of the story. And that rubric or that cognitive skill is making connections and inferences. And then last but not least, in the final product of the epic finale, you're going to write a narrative that is in a third person point of view. So just like the story is written, third person omniscient, it's pretty important. So those 2 cognitive skills are going to be assessed on the final product there. Okay. So in terms of like pacing and doing, like completing all these pieces, I've set this up to basically be due on May 22nd. Now things may change from now until then, and I plan on making more of these types of videos for you along the way. and we'll link those up and put those up on YouTube, and then also put them into these sections, and then email them out to you as well. And we'll also schedule some Zoom conferences too, so that we can have some group discussion, class discussion type things with everyone. So this is just the kind of the overview of things in terms of like what you need to read and when. I'm going to say I'm going to try to put out every week where you could be in terms of recommendations for page numbers. If you want to go ahead and, say you start reading and you just, you really like it and you get into it and you finish all of part 1, that's great. And you do that in like 3 days, totally cool. And then you can go back and do the part 1 of the checkpoints and things like that. Okay. At the end of all of these things will be due on the 22nd. I will list these things out in my Google Sheet that you should have received in an email from your mentor teacher that outlines that. So in fact, I'll go ahead and see if I can pull that up real quick. Pull it over to my screen here. Here we go. So you should have gotten an email from your mentor teacher that will have a link to this Google Sheet. And down here in the bottom, you're going to see all the different teachers with their names and things like that. So this will help you navigate like when teachers are doing things and what their hours are, like when they'll have office hours and things like that. On my agenda here, you're going to see under E4, you kind of scroll up the top there and you're going to see some of those things up at the top, like office hours and all that kind of stuff, and my number there if you need to get a hold of me. And scroll on down. So for today, 4/1, 1st of April, April Fools, we've got E4 and the Alchemist. Okay. So read the introduction to the Alchemist, then log into Summit and complete checkpoint 1. And here's some of the notes that I've already talked about there as well. So as far as a reading schedule, I will try to have this updated on a weekly basis as to where you might be at in the reading part of the text. Okay. But like I said, if you want to get ahead, you can do so. You can also, if it takes you a little bit longer to do those things, that's okay as well. Really the goal here is that you make some progress every week, and work towards completing these checkpoints and completing the final products. I'll be checking in with you guys on a weekly basis to make sure that you're staying on track, and also letting you know like if anything changes along the way. It's been one of those things where every other day something changes and we have to make some adjustments. So we're trying to be as nimble as possible here in making this work for everyone. So check your email on a regular basis. We'll be sending out communications via email and Parent Square. And I'll do obviously more of these videos to keep you guys updated, and some of those Zoom conference calls. So that's going to be it for this initial introduction to the Alchemist. And if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we'll get you squared away. Stay healthy, stay well, and hope to see you guys soon.